How's it going, everybody? Welcome to OP Entertainment. I'm Omar Darwish.
And I'm Pratik Cherian.
And we're back to review Dune Part 2. We're going to go spoiler-free. One of us is really excited about this. One of us was dreading this moment. I'm going to let the one that was dreading this moment go first. Pratik, what did you think?
All right, I can sum up my thoughts this simply. If you loved Dune Part 1, you'll love Dune Part 2. If you didn't really care for Dune Part 1, you're not really going to care for this.
Hard disagree.
Yeah, it's basic, yeah. All of my thoughts about the first one, I kind of have about the second one, too. So,
what?
Yeah, it's basically...
All right, so go watch our review for Dune Part 1. We'll see you next time. Tell
us what you loved. How much you love this.
I don't even know if I liked the first one. I loved the first one. I don't know if I liked it as much as I think I do after seeing this one. Halfway through the movie, I'm like, this is like the coolest movie I've seen like the past 10 years. The movie ends, and I'm like, this is like the coolest movie I've seen the past 10 years. Denis Villeneuve this cements him, I think, as my favorite director. If you like Denis Villeneuve, you're gonna love this. I think if you didn't like the first Dune, I think you'll still love this because this has so much like nonstop, just like going, not just action, but like the story keeps moving, the characters keep getting developed. You disagree? Oh my god, this is like I'm so. I wanted to be happy about this, and I am. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
I'm happy for you. I'm glad you're thrilled.
How could you do a sci-fi movie better than this? Just in general, like I couldn't picture a sci-fi movie being done better.
So here's what I'll say: the movie did really well. I thought that visually it was impressive.
Impressive is
the score. The score was excellent. It's well crafted. It's well acted. It's technically put together incredibly well.
You're saying this like this isn't all it takes to make a great movie. Like
no, I mean because it's not all that it takes. Like there's
magic is there.
There's this thing called story and character, and and I wonder if that maybe it's because I haven't read Dune, so maybe it's because Dune is just maybe it's just unadaptable. Maybe that's honestly my takeaway after coming away from this one. I'm like maybe this just isn't a story that can be adapted.
I would have thought that I've only read the first like half of Dune, but I would have thought that it's unadaptable. Seeing this though, especially like getting the second half, like I wish they would have dropped like part 1 and then part 2 like right back to back because I think people would have like much more of like a respect for this overall. But now that it's out, like I don't care that I had to wait. This is incredible. This is like I couldn't imagine a better second part. Like, and this honestly enhances the first movie like to so many levels. Like. When you say all right, let's start with story because you said story. You didn't like. Sure. What about like it wasn't deep enough? Like you felt like we know where this is going because like I'll agree that I felt like we were watching. We were just kind of experiencing like history in a different universe or something. Like,
I kind of felt like the movie was aimless through the first hour and a half. Like we just kind of were floating through things, and I kept waiting for it to get to the part where I know it's gonna go.
Okay.
I thought that so. This isn't a spoiler. The beginning of the first part of the movie is Paul kind of learning the ways of the Fremen. Would you say
sure.
That's accurate?
Yeah.
Right. And I would have liked that to be coupled with us learning more about his character or the relationship between he and Chinese Zendaya's character, or just I don't know. I just thought that they're like rather than I felt like I was just being like. It felt like exposition even when it wasn't. Like what I wanted to see was I wanted to get to know these characters and I wanted to see their growth, their struggles. I wanted them to feel like people instead of just like archetypes.
And you feel like they didn't feel like people. Did you not buy the relationship between them?
I did not.
Okay, so that kind of answers everything because I feel like I was thinking to myself, I'm invested in this, but if you're not invested in we can say like a little bit of a relationship going on, right? That's not a huge spoiler.
No.
If you're not invested in the relationship, I could totally see you checking out to like because all of the character development happens between the conversations between Chani and why can't I think of his name? Paul, because he has 4 names in this movie.
Yeah.
But those conversations deepen both of those characters to the point where like where we see them in the beginning versus the end, like where they are in their relationship and just like overall, I feel like they've had so much not just growth but like maybe
that's it. So I didn't feel any of that. Wow. And so by the end of it I was just like, all right, whatever.
That's crazy. I almost like I wasn't gonna shed a tear, but like I felt it in my heart like certain moments towards the end of the movie. Man, okay, so is it specifically those characters? Because, like, come on, Javier Bardem was incredible in this.
Did you not feel he was overacting a little?
No, not at all. Okay. I felt like he was like the number one Paul Atreides fanboy. It was incredible.
He was.
It was funny.
And again, like I would have liked more of a struggle, more about his character. He's kind of one note. He was just kind of one note.
he's someone that wants to believe, and he's given every reason to believe throughout. It's fun that I mean, I will say, like, if there's any comic relief in this movie, it would be him, I suppose. But it's warranted. It's story warranted. Not and going back to story warranted, I think that all the action in this movie is probably like the most justified action. It's just
I thought
incredible.
the action sequences were all very well done, well choreographed, well shot,
And they mean something. Everything means something.
Up until the very last action set piece.
When you say very last, do you mean the very last like big?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I kind of thought that felt rushed, in a way where that being somewhat of a climax, I felt should have had a lot more stakes and weight, and it just kind of felt like we rushed through it to get to the next thing.
I disagree. I think that the reason I feel like there's so much. We need to see this again. I feel like there's so much at stake when we get to this certain point. I gotta.
Yeah,
I
need the action to like bear
specify.
that out.
You're not talking about a one-on-one fight. You're talking about a grand battle, right?
Yes.
I personally don't love when it's like a battle of 100 people versus a battle of 100 people just run at each other. I thought this did it in a very unique way. You know what I mean? And it didn't prolong it. So maybe if it would have gone longer, that would have been better for you. Is that what you're saying?
It's not so much the length as it was like, again, I felt like usually when you have like Grand Army versus Grand Army kind of thing, like it needs to feel like, oh, okay, like this is actually a battle. This is something that my characters have to get through. And it almost felt like they were just like, all right, we're going to skip through this part so we can get to the goal we're going for.
Out of all the action, I guess that little, which is very short, maybe 30-second scene you're talking about, if I think about the same thing, maybe a minute, that felt the most like, just noise, but it's leading up to a very like, quiet, contemplative, like, fight. And
Sure.
I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it for that. Not just the fight, but like everything leading up to it, all the politics in this movie.
I don't want to talk about that because I don't know that I can do that without going
Spoiling
fully
it?
into spoilers. But
I'm just gonna assume you didn't like any of that.
It was okay. It was fine.
I've never seen Game of Thrones, but I can't imagine that they do like political intrigue better than this. Like this, man. I want
is what
Denis
it is.
Villeneuve to adapt everything. Like I just want him to adapt every book. Period.
Again, I can't, without having read Dune, I can't say how good of an adaptation it is. He has a very distinct style.
You think? I mean,
At least and I think that
I guess
comes
you
out
know
here.
you're gonna see something visually beautiful. Like when they're on the is it the Harkonnen planet?
Yeah.
For Austin Butler's character.
Right, yeah.
Just like the fireworks going off. I was like, man, see, that's what Denis Villeneuve does perfectly. I was worried because Deakins wasn't doing the cinematography on this that it might lose a little bit of its like flavor.
Yeah.
No, they got the guy that did The Creator to do this. Solid. He's going on a path right now. I'm here for it. How'd you feel about Florence Pugh?
Fine.
Underused?
Yeah, I assume that she'll get used more in the next one.
Yeah, they definitely have to do a next one though, right? Like I know they've talked about it, but I
mean,
don't think it's greenlit yet.
Do they have to?
Yes, they have to. I am just shocked. I mean, I don't know why I'm shocked because I knew you weren't gonna like this, but like,
But the thing
was
is,
so good.
I wanted to because my big problem with the first one was I felt like it was a lot of exposition and not a lot of like. I was expecting this movie to be the one where I get all my payoff, and I didn't get payoff.
But what you wanted is like the story and the characters, and we got a lot of that in the first one. It's all set up for this, so like, let's just go,
Yeah, and we didn't. I kept waiting, and it didn't happen till an hour and a half into the movie, if that.
It's a 3-hour movie. Give it time. I will say this: the first like maybe hour where they're at like one base for most of the movie, I thought, is this gonna be the whole movie? I'm okay with it, but like I kind of want more. No, they quickly jump from planet to planet. And
I don't know. I felt it dragging.
I don't think so. Yeah. So I was just about to ask you about the pacing.
Yeah.
Because like we've been on a run anyway of like seeing like 3-hour movies that have just been hitting. Other than maybe Killers of the Flower Moon, like Oppenheimer was great. I thought Avatar 2 was pretty good. You didn't love John Wick 4, but I like John Wick 4 for a 3-hour movie. It's pretty good. This I feel like is maybe the best like long movie I've ever seen. I don't want to be like too like hyperbolic, but I feel like I can't imagine like. Even like when I think of my favorite sci-fi movies and just like my favorite movies, I can't think of like, I just want to see this again. After the first Dune, I was like, I can wait a couple weeks before watching that again. This, I want to go right back and see it again. Like,
see, I keep talking about how it doesn't pick up till an hour and a half in, and the reason I know that is because I kept checking my watch till we got to an hour and a half in, and
I didn't
that's
even
when
wear
I
my
stopped.
watch. I didn't even wear my watch. Oh man.
All right. Anything else you want to say about it? I feel like
I loved it so much. I just want to keep thinking about it.
I'm happy for you. I'm glad you loved it. So much.
I think if you're a fan of cinema in general, you should go see this. Even if you're not, and you just need something to like just do, go watch this because this is incredible. I'm calling it now. This is gonna be Best Picture Oscars. Calling it right now. Maybe that's not a risky call. Maybe everyone's saying that, but like this. There's not going to be a movie that comes out this year that's better than this.
So this is a 10 for you?
10 out of 10. This is a 10 out of 10 for sure. If it would have came out last year, it would have definitely been hard to rank for sure. Like, man, that's why it moved so that Oppenheimer could rule the Oscars this year. Is that what it is? 10 for me, for sure.
Like I said, I mean, it's everything but the story. it's great. So it's really hard for me to say because they, you know what? I'll go 7. I'll go 7.
Just give it a 5.
I'm gonna hate myself for doing it, but I'll
for doing it. All right, that's how we end the video.
You know what? 6. You're right. It's a 6. It's a 6. It's a very, very pretty to look at drag. Yeah.
It's not that. It's not that, guys. Please go see it. Let us know what you think about it though, because I'm curious. I'm curious what people think about this. I know it's probably got a high score right now, but.
I think last time I checked, it was like a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, but there's no audience score yet.
That's better than the first one, though. So yeah,
I don't think it's overall bad, but it's again, I think if you were in on the first one, you'll be in on this one, and if you weren't, then you're not.
And I think even if you weren't in on the first one, if you wanted more from the first one, but you were interested, I think you'll still find a lot to love with this one. So
all right, you want to take us out?
Yeah, well, we'll see you guys next week for something we're doing. Bye
See you then.